Hello there, and welcome to this edition of Thought for the Week. It's good to be with you. I've been looking at the Psalms, and particularly at Psalm 27. What an inspirational psalm it is. David wrote it. It clearly says at the top of the psalm here, of David. I'm sure you know that David wrote most of the Psalms, but there are others too that were written by other people, but perhaps that's for another time. But this is one of David's genuine psalms, and what a great psalm it is. Let me read verse 1 to you. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? David was a remarkable person, but he was a very ordinary person in certain ways. He was exalted because of the way in which the Lord elevated him to the dizzy heights of kingship. He was King of Israel. But he never lost the earthiness of his earlier life. He was very much a man's man. He was very much a down-to-earth kind of guy. Well, that's understandable because he'd been a shepherd, looking after his father's sheep when he was a boy. But now he is the King of Israel. What a remarkable transformation. But David came from a home that was a working home. It was a business home. His father Jesse had a large flock of sheep, and he had other brothers engaged in the farming industry with him. And so he knew what it was to come from humble beginnings, although decidedly middle-class beginnings, and he became a great soldier and then an even greater king. So here was a man with a rich degree of experience. And through it all, he experienced the greatness of his God. For me, that's most encouraging because through all the changing scenes of life, those times which are humble, those times which exercise us, those times which discourage us, as well as all the times of blessing, it's just good to know that the Lord is the stronghold of my life. And that's true for you too. If you are truly a child of God, you can count on his presence and strength. He is my stronghold. But David was also a man of passions. We know that from the accounts in the Hebrew Scriptures. He was a man who had an eye for the ladies, and that got him into terrible trouble. He was also a man who knew what it was to have a broken heart, because a child was produced from an adulterous relationship that he'd had with Bathsheba, but the Lord took that child. Now that's terribly sad. And then in later life, when he was king, his son Absalom, on whom he doted, turned on his father, betrayed his father, and tried to seize his father's kingdom. But even in those situations, and they must have been terrible to face, David knew the Lord as the stronghold of his life. It's a fortress word. It reminds me very much of a great hymn written by a man called Martin Luther. Just listen to this. A safe stronghold, our God is still, a trusty shield and weapon. He'll help us clear from all the ill that hath us now o'ertaken. That's quite powerful, isn't it? Luther knew the truth of it, but it was a truth that had been expounded by David in Psalm 27. He knew it. It held him firm when he considered himself to be on very shaky ground and very threatened. He knew God as his stronghold. Praise the Lord. So can I, and so can you. Well, goodbye for now. I look forward to speaking to you next time. Bye.